Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to take a look at this Kickstarter game, Dark Ages, the Holy Roman Empire. Now there are two editions, which I have both, the Holy Roman Empire and the Heritage of Charlemagne. They seem to work, they complement each other. One deals with a map of the eastern portions of Europe in the corresponding time era, and one in the western portions of Europe. It is a dudes on a map game in a lot of ways. It has a lot that would be familiar to anyone who's used to building armies, battling across the landscape, achieving victory and honor and fame and various other accoutrements of pride. So without further ado, let's take a look.
Okay, let's examine the mysteries that lie within the dark, dark ages, the Holy Roman Empire. What do we have? Well, lots of pieces. And why do those pieces matter? Because you're going to put them on this map. This is a gargantuanly huge map. And all decked out for anywhere from 1 to 4 players. I'm set up a 2-player game here, and so the bottom part of the map is pretty much off limits unless you're 3 to 4 player, which is actually excellent because as much of a table hog as this is, for 2 players you can just put the manual right here and be able to refer to it without covering up any of the map. A handy thing given that there are no player aids and no index, etc., etc. Every player, well, first off, you'll notice that each area has its own little custom things. We have barbarians at the gates. We have buildings for what they produce, like wood and iron and stone and leather. Um, Victory point track. We've got everybody gets a player board. This is the closest thing to a lookup sheet. Gives you kind of the cost of materials, how many farms you put out. These are basically actions. They call them something like whatever, they're citizens or whatever, I forget what they're called, but basically this equals an action. And you have your initial set of troops. You have your infantry, your archers, and your light cavalry, a warehouse which you'll use for goods selling and trading. You've got your typical minis. Notice that I've got the fanciful wood. Kind of looks more like one of those like things at Christmas that you cut and eat with cinnamon. Leather, stone, and these suckers. Basically, that's it. That's what you got for components except for you got the main board here, which is the action board. You've got churches you'll plant. You've got this action board where you shuffle cards and you play them, and this is where your action tokens are going to go in order to do different actions. Also, you have this conveyor belt of different upgrades and developments of culture, which you'll be able to grab cards, etc. That's it. That's what we have in the box. Tons and tons of stuff, and at the same time, not a ton. All right, let's get into gameplay. So I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time with a big gameplay thing. There are some good playthrough videos. One of them that's almost 3 hours that will take you through every nuance of this game. Suffice to say, we have Richard, or Burchard, Duke of Swabia. Bet he doesn't use Q-tips. On this here, so that's his domain where he starts. He's going to get a castle. He's going to be able to use that one production building. He gets a farm, and he gets 2 units to start with.
Get off my land.
All right. So what that means is he's ready to go here. Everything's set. And over here on this side, in this corner, we have Gero the Great, Margrave of Saxon Ostmark, and he's starting over here. Now, the ultimate culmination of this, how you win, is victory points. It all comes down to victory points, and in this game, there is a lot of ways to get victory points. It's not simply just blasting over the map, grabbing stuff. You can earn victory points in a variety of other ways as well. Your coins are worth victory points, different actions are worth victory points, special cards will give you victory points. It goes on and on. So, to start off with, actions are actually relatively quick. You'll notice there are 5 actions here. Research, building, recruit, development of culture, and maneuver. They're pretty easy to map to standard stuff. You can play a common tech card on your boards, means you can actually employ a technology or do an upgrade. You can build a city or a new building. You can recruit units if you have the resources to pay for them. You can take a card from the culture offer, and you can maneuver, which is basically moving your armies. And when you you move your armies, if you happen to be in the same place that other armies are, or barbarian tokens, you will fight. Fighting is rich and glorious and mighty. It's like cheese. All right, so then we have these culture track here, and the culture track determines how many cards or what cards you can select when it's time for you to take a card. Right now, everyone's stuck here. Until you cross this boundary here, you can't grab these 2 cards. Until you cross this boundary, you can't grab one of these cards, etc. 4, 5, 6. Plus, as you get high culture, you're also going to get victory points for that too. Victory points everywhere. So some of these cards will give you technologies that might be of benefit to you. Levied cavalry, you could upgrade your infantry and your crossbowmen, you could take these cards which you have to play before passing that will give you sort of a boost of victory points based on a condition or a state that you're in or that the rest of the board is in, etc. All right, let us just go ahead and begin. So, yellow says, what am I to do? I am here. I have units. I have barbarian tokens. Some of them you can see what you're going to face. Some of them you only see what you'll get. You don't really know the composition of the army that you're going to face. So here we notice, you know what? We better start building up our units. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to research here and play a new common technology on my board. Oh, sorry. Lies. Development of culture. Take a card from the culture card offer. This is all I can take, but I like it. Why? Because once I play it, whenever I decide to recruit, I can also recruit a cavalry unit in addition to the unit I would have recruited. That's pretty cool. That might be my coup d'etat. All right, and that's it. That's basically all you do. There's nothing else that goes on because we haven't yet done the spill down, which I'll show you shortly later. Let's do the same thing with purple. No, it's not pink. We're going to do the same thing. Well, first off, we're going to roll this, and there you go. Look at that. Now we've got more. Now we're going to go, you know what? I too want a development card. I want to beef up my infantry or my knights. Now, I can't beef those up yet because you have to go from level 1 to 2 to 3. All my units are level 1. But I certainly could beef up my infantry. What does that mean? That means that I have more of a potential to strike units because I have to roll a 4 or more instead of a 5 or more. I like it. We'll keep it. Oh, happy day. Now this is what happens. Now what about this? We're going to use our yellow again. This is not indicative of a game you would probably want to play to win. I'm just showing you things as they happen. Now let's say that we decide, oh, I really want those crossbowmen. Development of culture. Why is that cool? Because I get this card, which I can keep. You can have up to 10. Place it there. And because I have 3 in a stack, I basically bump down, and now I get an alternate action. I can recruit again. Ooh, wouldn't that be fancy? Or I could take a wood or leather. I'm going to recruit. That means I get a free recruit action. Now what does that mean? Light infantry. Ooh, if I pay this leather, I get an infantry. If I pay this leather and a wood, I'm going to get an archer. If I play leather and another leather and an iron, and I can use gold as a replacement, I could get a light cavalry. I'm going to do that. Let's throw caution to the wind. All right. So then we can take one of these and we can place it in any area where we control a city. Now I've got kind of a nice army. I'm ready to go. I could probably go out and start expanding out if I see fit. All right. Then here for purple, we're going to think, here's some thoughts that have to happen. We need to also have a good economy because we're going to need to support lots of things. So right now, if we pass, we're going to produce 1 stone. And that's really nice, but we could definitely do more because our units they don't take stones for buildings, but you do want to have the ability to build production buildings. I could do that. So what if I were to build? Say I'm going to do building. I can build a new city or a new building. Well, I'm not ready to build a new city. I haven't moved anybody out yet, but I do want to build a new building. Now, how does that work? Well, if I want to build something that matches this province, stone, then all I need to do is pay 1 stone and 1 wood. That's not going to do very well. I need leather. I think leather would be good because all my units need leather. So I have an adjacent building, and that means that because it's adjacent, I can pay a wood. I'm going to use my gold for another wood and a stone. I'm going to pay these, and those are going to go into the And tally. And now I can build. Yes, I can. What am I going to build? I am going to build the leather shop. The leather shop. And that is a red building here. I gotta be a little mindful. So now you can have up to 3 things building. That's why these 3 triangles are there. So when I pass, I'm gonna build more resources. So that's good. Okay. Now let's do this. Now we're gonna use this, and we're going to go ahead and maneuver. You check your army limit and move one of your neighbors. So, or move one of your units. So right now we have 3. 3 is the maximum amount of units that I can move without paying extra gold or moving units. So this is the farms are kind of the cap. You got to build farms to support your units. So say we were to go from here to here. This again, maybe not saying these are wise ideas, but okay. Oh, dang it. All right, so now we have two units and an archer. So we have. That's great. So what we're going to do is that's what we're going to fight, and we're going to go ahead and set our units where they go. Fighting's kind of cool. We're going to see it here in action. We get dice. I'm going to grab a boatload of dice here, and we're going to roll. We're going to roll the dice. So, all right. So it goes in phases. First we do the archer phase, because basically arrows travel faster than the human foot, and so we have 2 archers here, or no, 2 infantry. They don't roll. There's an archer here that rolls. Has to roll a 5 or better. Archer 4 or better, yeah. So takes a hit. So basically knocks out one of these guys before we even start. Sadness. All right, then we have the cavalry coming in for a charge. We're going to roll, and if we get a 5 or better, and we did not, that sucked. All right, and now we have 2 units that are going to roll a red and a green, and 5 and 4. So 5 is a miss, 4 is a miss. We didn't do jack crap. What a game. Now we have to roll these 2, a 4 and a 1. Again, for infantry, a 5 and a 1. So basically, nobody did squat. Alright, so then we have to add up, and we have to, now that the combat's over, what we actually have to do is say, hey, you know what did we do for values? There's battle values, 1, 2. I've got two values worth of units, and I've got 1, 2, 3. So we didn't win that. That makes us sad. So count us as sad. Make sure that's in the video. We are now sad. Had we won, we would have been able to keep our units over there, start building cities, because you can pay for the cities, you can pay for building upgrades on cities, you can upgrade your cities with keeps, and you can do all these things. You're still building all this up. It's all about victory points, but still, there's a value to territory and to owning it, because, say, what if it's time to pass? So we're going to do this. We're going to say, I'm going to pass. Pass means you grab all of the things that you had before, and you put them back. You get a gold. You get magic. Oh, this is where a cheat sheet would come in handy, because whenever you pass, there's certain things that happen. You ditch a card, move stuff down. Passing just kind of like, and you pass by yourself. We don't pass all together in one happy family. You just pass privately as you make your way through the game. And passing does give you the opportunity to have to get resources. So yeah, so you can discard a left card. Title claiming, there are certain titles you can claim if you own enough territory in given regions, and have some of your action cylinders left, which so nobles, I think they're called nobles. And then we took the noble disc out, we checked the warehouse track. So basically at certain points, oh, that shouldn't have been upgraded, but at certain points you can sell off goods for coinage, which is great because you can only keep one. So that would mean I would have to get rid of one of these 2, which right now we'll do that. But it would have been nicer if I'd been able to sell it and get something for it. So that's another thing about passing, is that's one of the ways you generate coinage. Culture points, because you add to your culture points. You get your gold. Some effects will let you actually trigger at the end of after passing. If you have any specific cards, like Kogaman cards they call them, where they're like, hey, you get 3 victory points if you do this or that, those all have to be turned in. And finally, For each province you control, you get a certain amount of resources based on the number of buildings of that type. So I would get 1 stone and 1 leather. So I give myself a stone and a leather. There we go. And that'll help me as I start to do more things. Refresh titles and we're good to go. And that goes on and on and on. The game is going to take a while. You're going to be branching out, fighting other players. You're going to capture and lose territory. You're going to get victory points based on beating up victory points for beating up barbarians, victory points for beating up other people, victory points for building up your warehouse, victory points for culture. There's just victory points all over the place, which is really the end-all be-all. That's a little bit of an overview. There's not a ton that I'm going to dive into because there's some great video playthroughs that tell you what to do and how to build stuff up. But that's generally how you play Dark Ages Holy Roman Empire. And it's also very, very similar to Dark Ages Heritage of Charlemagne. The two are close to fraternal twins. Anyway, alright, let's get to my final thoughts on Dark Ages Holy Roman Empire.
Okay, final thoughts on Dark Ages Holy Roman Empire. The Queen's right there for you. First, as always, we go over the cons. The cons are generally pretty nominal. I think this is neither an incredibly noteworthy standout, nor do I think it's incredibly dull and not worth your attention. I'm getting to the summary, but let's go over that. It fits right in the middle. It fits well. If it was a theater, it would come in with its popcorn and take a seat along with the rest of the people ready to watch a movie. It doesn't have anything particularly outstanding, but at the same time, it does so many things well in a polished way. One of the things, however, that I think is a drawback is there is not, there's a lot of information there, a lot of rules. There's not a lot that's ambiguous, but it would be nice to have a nice summary of that for players when you're teaching the game. Like I said, behind me, when you're playing 2 players, you can just slap the manual literally on the game board in the portions that are off play, and it will work okay. But I still think there's a value beyond just your player board gives you some information, mostly on where to build your stuff, but it doesn't really give you a lot in the way of, hey, here's the turn flow, or here's some very quick information when you take your turns. It's a table hog. That's usually a good thing for me. In this case, it was still a good thing for me, although be mindful that it's, especially if you're ever going to combine the two into this epic saga of 8-player games, that, well, by then you probably know you're going to need a bigger table. But at the same time, it's for those with smaller space, you might be like, that's a little tricky to fit everything onto. I can't say enough about the components. There's nothing bad with them. They're fine. I'm kind of blending my pros and cons, and one of this is because, well, let's just get to the things I like about it. I like this game because I like the smooth flow of play. I think everything is just kind of pleasantly, like a field of daisies, just does everything I'd want it to pretty right. I like the farming aspect where you lay down your farms. That limits your armies, so you're not building the killer stack. You have to really lay out some territory. You have to go forge your way through territory. I like the player counts at 1, 2, 3, and 4. I didn't get a chance to combine the sets, but I expect that would be a different beast of its own. But when you combine, 1, 2, 3, or 4, the thing there's a lot of room to maneuver. It's a slow start. It's going to be a slow start for people resource-wise. You really are starting. Somebody likened it to sort of the closest thing to Age of Empires on a board game, and they might have something to that. I think that there's something to be said where you start off small, nominal needs, but as you grow out, you get bigger. You feel like you're getting bigger. Your armies get bigger. They will succeed. They will fail. I think the combat in its different layers is great. I think that it hits a nice sweet spot between, hey, your archers fire first, your cavalry charges in, and let's see how your melee goes, with a few bonuses based on how well you build your city. Honestly, everything there is fine. It works just pleasantly as you would expect. There aren't any surprises like, here's a tricky little facet of gameplay you've never seen before. We've seen it all before. Everything in that box I've seen before. I've seen every mechanism, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing to take all of those little bits and pieces of different games and put them together in a very cohesive unit. This game is a very cohesive game to play. I like the little ways, the little touches of growing and advancing. You got your cards that you start off with, and they give you a little bonus. Then you can level them up if gold. You really do have to think of your finances here. You're not going to basically break the bank. You're not going to be Venetian traders going, yeah, we're in the dough. So that's something to consider. Honestly, this is probably the most pleasant 4X dudes on a map game you could probably imagine playing. That said, there are a lot of modules, and I'm not typically a big fan of adding all these little modules. In fact, I'm still not a fan of it, but there are a few, like the solo modules are it's a well done way to do it. Like I said, if you're fighting against barbarians in another region next to you, that's cool. It still feels a little interesting. Not as interesting as taking on players, but nevertheless, there's a lot to be said for the organization of it. I didn't have a good time breaking off all the pieces. I think the manual did a very poor job of components list, or it's like, hey, here's 284 cards for your enjoyment, but you kind of break them up. You have to have, like, I had to put like 2 of these on in a row, like one and then the other, and then grow my glasses out to read the incredibly tiny print of the card numbers because they break it up by card numbers. I finally figured out the trick by going to the back of the manual where it lists all the modules, and that gave a better breakdown of which pieces match which module. That took more work than it ought to have. Once that's a one and done though. When you're done, when you really have everything laid out, you're like, okay, I get it. I like the custom components. I actually like I mean, there's some very cute, wood pieces and iron and all that. Although I actually found myself kind of going back to the original just cardboard shits because of the color matching. Like, I have a red building. That's right. I don't even have to think, what is this one again? Is this the Woodchuckers Hood Hut? And so you're not going to be at a great loss if you don't get the fancy schmancy components. Because the actual core game itself is nice. Is it worth buying one or the other? I think I would easily be okay with buying either Knights of Charlemagne or this one. The key here is that if there are differences, but again, the gameplay is almost identical. Fraternal Twins at the high point. I mean, the price point, basically I paid $250, which means I bought $225 games. Do I think it was worth it? No. I would have just bought one, to be honest with you. I don't think that there's nothing like magically amazing about one or the other where you just pair them together and then bliss and merriment fly out of the forest and like sprinkle pixie dust on you and go, oh, what a $250 experience. So you could buy one or the other and be just fine. The big compelling draw of having both is if you really do have a very large group of people, 8 people, and you want to just spend the entire day playing this game. I think you'll find it pretty fun. Again, I would probably rate this as 7.5, I think. I don't think it really just blew me out of the water this year, but at the same time, there's something to be said for a game that's like soup and sandwich. Like, hey, this feels comfortable to me. I like it. Everything's there. Everything flows nicely. I like the little decisions. I like making a few victory points here and there and the battles and stuff. So give it a whirl if that's of something of interest. Yeah. Dark Ages. Now with the... Okay. It's a puzzle. Now it's not. Dark Ages, Holy Roman Empire, and Knights of Charlemagne, Heritage of Charlemagne. Give it a whirl, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.